Welcome everyone to Rogue Reader. I'm back with another first reading review. Just working on catching up on all the Star Wars books that I've kind of been behind on. This is my first read through of Star Wars Sanctuary, a Bad Batch novel. So a Bad Batch tie-in novel, essentially. This is written by Lamar Giles, and I believe it's his first Star Wars book from what I can read on his biography in the back. The book, for a general setup of this book, I'm not gonna, for these first reading reviews, I don't go into any spoilers or anything like that, just kind of the basics of what you need to know for the setup and things like that. For this one, it takes place in the Bad Batch. I originally thought that when I heard this book was announced, I thought this might actually take place during the Clone Wars, but it doesn't. It takes place during the show itself, sometime pretty close to after the episode where they discover the planet Pabu and that planet gets hit by that tsunami. This takes place shortly after that. The idea is that Hunter and the Bad Batch, they're trying to do a sort of heist to get some money to help rebuild Pabu after that disaster happened. They're doing this heist with Fee, so that kind of smuggler pirate character. She's in this with them, and they end up, along with the heist, they end up trying to take another job where they have to escort these two characters, Sohee and Kuto. And Sohee is pregnant, and they want to get passage to a certain planet, but there's more to them than meets the eye. They have some secrets in their past. They end up being chased by the Empire along with this other collector who tries to double cross them. And in the midst of all of this, they just kind of have to decide how much trouble are these two passengers worth it to getting this mission done and getting the funds that they need to help Pabu. That's kind of the general setup of what this novel is. So first, I think I should just talk about my thoughts on the Bad Batch show in general. I do like it. I do think it's a good show, but it's not my favorite of the animated series. It's probably it would be my least favorite. I'm not going to count Star Wars Resistance. That one I think is clearly made for a bit of a younger audience, and I didn't finish that one if I'm being honest. But in comparison to the Clone Wars and Rebels, Bad Batch is probably my least favorite. Rebels is my favorite, and followed by Clone Wars. That being said, it is still an enjoyable show. It's just not one that I would see myself always including on a rewatch, not every time at least. It does have some really good episodes in it though. It has some very good episodes. All right, so first, just to talk about the characters, the Bad Batch themselves, the author does an amazing job with them. They are true to how they are in this show. He captures their voices perfectly. There were for example, moments with Wrecker that did make me laugh when I was reading them, just kind of like he does in the show. He has kind of those silly moments. You can see them in your head as if this was written as an episode of a show or a series of episodes. So he captures that perfectly. Same with the other characters. Omega is done perfectly. Fee is also, he captures her voice perfectly. It's nice that she's kind of, she's with them the whole book. So she's included in the adventure the whole time. Everyone's kind of equal though when it comes to the batch. There's not anyone that really, I would say Hunter is still kind of the focus. Everyone else is just kind of there, and I would say they all get about equal time. There's no one that really kind of takes over when it comes to their side. If you were looking for a bit more in-depth look into who these characters are, or if you're looking into kind of more growth with these characters, that's not what this story is. This isn't really an introspective look at who they are. This is them as they are in the show, just on another adventure. There are some new characters as well. So like I mentioned, there was Sohee and her partner Kuto. I can't really say much about them without giving away spoilers, because what they have actually going on is pretty important to where the book ends up going. But I will say they are very interesting characters. As we get to learn more about them, I was very invested in how their story was going to turn out and where everything was going to go. I enjoyed them quite a bit. Same thing for the villains. There's really no bad characters in this book. The villains I enjoyed them too. You have the ISB agent who is chasing the batch and their passengers. His name is Crane. He comes across as very competent, but he's also kind of obsessed. He's obsessed with finding Sohee. So you have that dynamic there. And then there's the other character, Celia. She's the other villain. She is a kind of a rich collector. She has like a palace filled with all this stuff. And from her, she is both collected, but also kind of insane at the same time. She kind of has a god complex. She sees herself as above everyone. And anyone who works with her or is with her, they know that she thinks nothing of them. So she's kind of scary in that way. Both of the villains are great. I enjoyed reading about both of them. So yeah, all of the characters are good all around. If anything, I think we needed to the villains, I wish they were handled a little bit differently in some aspects, but I'll talk with that shortly. But because that's related to the plot. So let me talk about the plot first. When it comes to my thoughts on the plot, I think it's done well with concerns with everything regarding the Batch themselves. I highly enjoyed all the aspects with the Bad Batch themselves, with the new characters, as they learn more about them, as they get caught up in this kind of whole thing between them and the Empire, and then the other villain gets involved, the Collector. So I enjoyed that entire aspect when we're with them. When we're not with them, we're with the other villains, like I said, Crane and Celia. Well, we're mainly with Crane. It's from his perspective, and this is the only part of the book where I really kind of I would have a complaint. I think as I said, both of these villains I think they're done very well, and I enjoyed them. And I wish they could have been utilized just a little bit differently. There comes a point where Crane crosses paths with Celia, and from that point on, he's kind of stuck with her. She has a little bit of Imperial influence, and she's able to use that to keep Crane with her. It's kind of a while before they actually cross paths with the Bad Batch fully. And I think that's probably the biggest misstep. I think this book could have really benefited from at least one more encounter somewhere in the middle where Crane and Celia encounter the Batch. After their first encounters, they don't encounter with each other again until pretty much the end of the book. Considering that it will swap back and forth between the Bad Batch and Crane, I think a little bit too much time of Crane being stuck is spent. And like I said, I think this book just could have benefited from another encounter between the heroes and them. And that's fine. Like I said, it's not that it's uninteresting. I just think it's something that could have made it better. I also, when it comes to the plot, I do have to say I appreciate the fact that Omega is not the focus. So Omega, the youngest clone, she really is the focus of the show. Like everything kind of revolves around her, and how the Batch see themselves kind of all come into play because of her. And then there's the moments where she gets captured and all these other things. So really the show, she's the focus of the show. She is not the focus of this book. I really enjoyed that because it was just refreshing. She's just a normal part of the crew. She doesn't get any more or really less time than the rest of the crew. She's there to help out in how she does best. And the plot's not about her. She really is kind of equal with the other characters in this book, and I enjoyed that. And I found that refreshing coming from the show where it's pretty much focused on her, to kind of see her to kind of see her just contributing, but not the focus. In terms of how it's written, the book is written well. I was able to read through it, and it flowed very naturally. The book does, despite the fact that I said there were parts where it felt like maybe things take a little bit too long with the villains, the book really does feel like a speedy read. It's just under 300 pages. The chapters are short, which is what I like. It switches perspectives often, which I also enjoy in my novels. It just keeps me engaged more, and I felt like I was able to read through this one more quickly than other ones. It was a fun, speedy read is I think the best way to describe it. And for a hardcover, because it's not on the heavier side, and for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe if this one was just printed a bit differently, but it actually feels good to hold in your hands for long periods of time. I much prefer paperbacks. I'm a paperback person. To me, they're much easier to read and just take with you no matter where you are. But hardcovers, I find a bit harder after a while. My hands start to get tired when I'm holding them. But this one didn't. This one, for whatever reason, this one felt good to hold. It almost felt like a paperback, so I enjoyed that as well. Just to kind of wrap things up, the things I liked best about this book were the characters that were spot on. The new characters were all interesting. I liked, again, that Omega wasn't the focus, and that it was just a speedy, easy read. Those are the things I liked best about this. It also it delves a little bit into what it means to be a clone when they're not with the Republic anymore. And I know the show delves in that too, but this deals with it in just a bit more in a different way. And I also really enjoyed that aspect as well. It kind of reminded me, my favorite Star Wars books of all time are the Republic Commando novels. And this one, in a way, this one actually reminds me of a Republic Commando novel. So maybe I'm a bit biased to written clone stories, but that grabbed my attention as well. And it made me just enjoy this more. Things I disliked about the book, honestly, nothing really. Like I said, my minor complaint that I think the villains could have used one more encounter with the heroes, that's a minor one. It doesn't really ruin anything, there's honestly nothing I can say I dislike about this book. It was fun to read all the way through. So do I recommend this book? I mean, all around, yes. If you're a fan of the show, you're not going to be disappointed with this. You're not going to feel like the characterizations are off. You're getting pretty much an adventure that feels like something that was written, that could have been written into the show. So if you like the show, you'll definitely love this. If you were a bit indifferent towards the show, you might still want to give this a chance because, again, something that was kind of interesting is that I think I enjoyed reading about the Bad Batch more than I did actually watching them. Again, that isn't to say that the show is bad, because it wasn't a bad show. It's just for whatever reason, I think I like reading about clones more than I do seeing it. Just, I guess, seeing their inner thoughts a bit more. I don't know. I think it works better written in some cases. And so if you're indifferent about the show, you might still find yourself enjoying this book more than you did when you were watching the series. If you've never watched the show, I think you might get a sense that there are some things you're missing. There are some references you might not quite understand, but it's pretty much a self-contained adventure. So if maybe you are a fan of the old Legends Republic Commando novels, maybe you like clone stories in general, but maybe you're just not a fan of the animated series, you might still get something out of this. It might still be something to look into. So overall, this was a good book. I do highly recommend it. And I hope the author gets to write more, honestly. I would love to see him tackle Bad Batch adventures that actually happened during the Clone Wars itself with the whole crew there. I think that would be very cool and very fun to read about. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. So this has been Rogue Reader with another first reading review, and may the Force be with you.